Hello and welcome to Move Beyond the Borders of Your Current CAS Tech Stack. This webcast is brought to you by CPA Practice Advisor Magazine and Avalara. I'm Gail Perry, Editor-in-Chief of CPA Practice Advisor, and before we get started, I'd like to explain how CPE for this webcast works. The webcast is slightly over 50 minutes and qualifies for 1 credit of continuing professional education. If you plan to earn CPE for attending this session, you must stay with us for at least 50 minutes. In addition, we will display 4 polling questions during the webcast. In each poll, you need to record an answer, as this is our verification that you are still watching the webcast. Later today, you will receive an email from CPA Practice Advisor containing a link to your CPE certificate, assuming you met the qualifications for certification. Please note that we can give CPE credit for multiple people at the same location. So if there are others in your office who would like to attend this event with you at the same computer, please have them join you now. At any time, you can enter questions in the Ask a Question box provided on your screen, and our speakers will try to get to as many questions as possible during the presentation. Questions not answered during the presentation will be addressed by the speakers afterwards in email. If you have any difficulty answering our polling questions online, you can post your answers to polling questions in the Ask a Question box, and we will record them there. We wanted to mention that we are grateful to Avalara for making this event possible and for enabling us to offer free CPE credit to our attendees. Today, we're joined by Sona Akmakjian, Amy Vetter, and Deneen Diaz, who will be presenting this webcast. I'll let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get started with the presentation.
Thank you, Gail. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Sona Ikmekjian, and I'm the Global Head of Strategic Accounting Partnerships here at Avalara. I'm a California CPA and have spent the last 30 years working for or with accounting firms of all sizes, both in advisory and technology. And today I have a fun job at Avalara of working with the profession and enabling them to grow and scale their business through adoption of technology.
Hi, my name is Amy Vetter. I am the CEO of the B3 Method Institute, and I want to thank Avalara and CPA Practice Advisor for putting on this session today. I specialize in helping firms be able to develop thriving CAS practices, building the foundation to scale and grow.
Hi, I'm Deneen Diaz. I'm Vice President of Growth and Strategic Relationships at BotKeeper. And I also thank you for inviting me to this discussion today. I've been looking forward to talking with you ladies because I am also very passionate about CAS. I've helped firms for the last 15 years build a CAS practice. 13 of those years, I was at CPA.com helping firms move to the cloud. And the last 2 years at BotKeeper, helping firms use AI and technology to build out their CAS practice. So looking forward to a lively discussion. Lots to talk about. Lots going on in CAS these days with firms.
Thanks, Deneen. I think you're going to pick up the passion among this group. I personally am very excited about the topic we're going to talk about, and even more excited about these 3 powerful women that are serving the profession today. So looking for, as you said, Deneen, lively discussion. I think that CAS has been around for a while. It might have been called something different, but I've seen it in accounting practices for years. But I will have to say that in recent years and months, there's been an explosion of opportunity. So I want us to talk a little bit about why we're seeing that. Personally, from a sales and use tax perspective, I can say that we've seen an explosion in CAS because of regulatory complexity, what it takes to be really compliant with sales and use taxes. So these companies are no longer able to do it through manual processes. We've had shortage of employees and help, so they're turning to their trusted advisor. So that's what I personally think is a key contributor of the explosion of opportunity. But Deneen, what are your thoughts on that topic?
I think it's a couple of things. I think obviously the cloud. the cloud is a game changer. Now firms have access to their clients' data in real time. So that was the first game changer. I think second was COVID. COVID really pushed people to be working from home, and all of a sudden businesses needed to digitize, and they're turning to their firm asking to help with the digitization. And so here we are now with those two shifts having happened. The firms are now realizing what we've been saying is that their clients need their advice, and the clients are coming to them. Who else does a business go to for advice? And so there's an opportunity now with this real-time data to be able to move into this advisory place in a way that's quite profitable. And it's reoccurring month after month, profitable revenue to the firm. So everyone's talking about it because it's been very profitable in a place where it wasn't before. It is now. And so everybody's talking about it. Firms are running to it. Leaders of firms are listening to other firm leaders build this out. And so it's exciting to see that it's happening. After being talking about it for years, it's really, really been the perfect storm, and we're seeing that happen. So, Amy, I'd love to hear what you're seeing as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think cloud technology in the first place is what shifted the move to CAS. I started what was not called CAS, probably 20 years ago. I called it outsourcing services at the time. And there is a real big push from clients to be able to understand their business. And so we have this conundrum of time and what our clients need from us. And so the only way to free up that time is to relook of how you deliver those services. And a big piece of that is automation, being able to share the same accounting information with your client real time, be able to be proactive. And then also in the whole profession, for years and years, there's been a big push around pricing and making sure that you can value price. And clients hear that and know that when they talk to different firms as well. Well, the only way we can profitably really value price is if we get that foundation in place of a business with the technology, with automation, so that the work becomes predictable. So what I saw happen for so many years is CAS really be, right up in essence at firms. And so that's really what that perspective was. When it is so much more than that, is the operational work every single month, really being involved with that client. So what it takes is really stepping back from the business, truly understanding what your client's needs are, and developing new services so that you can deliver. And the firms that have been doing that and that have been around are starting to prove this model out. And so what happens in our profession is we start looking right or left and saying, oh, we need to do that. And so in order for us to do that, we have to take the time to really think through all of these issues that arise in delivering a practice like this, learn from one another, and be able to deliver a client experience that's very differentiated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think, Amy, you're talking about the how, right? How are firms investing in CAS practices? But before we dive a little bit more into that area, Gail, I think you have a polling question for the audience.
I do. This is our first polling question for today's webinar. Where is your firm in the CAS journey? And the options for this question are, your answer options are, we've not started our CAS practice, but we have plans to do so. We have moved to the cloud and are offering services. We use outsourced CFO services, or I don't know. So pick the answer that is closest to what's happening in your own firm, and then click the submit button. And again, if you have any trouble answering this question online, go ahead and post your answer in the Q&A box and we'll pick it up there.
Yeah, I think the common theme we're going to hear is growth, profitability, standardization through this discussion, which are all critical in the success of a CAS practice.
So So, and it looks like most of our answers are in, so let's go ahead and post those results. So interestingly, very few using outsourced CFO services, but across the board, pretty equal on the other answers.
Great. So Amy, you were talking about, how firms are investing in the CAS practices. I think we should talk a little bit more about this topic. So when you look at over the past 12 months, and how are firms investing in CAS? What are you seeing?
Well, where people have come from and where they've had to evolve to the last few months is through trial and error, I believe. So, a lot of times when we go into something new, we pull from what we know. And what we knew was compliance work. What we knew was what supported that compliance work, rather than actually stepping back. And what innovation is, and disrupting and creating something new, is taking, that expertise we have, but creating something that we have never delivered before. And so for a lot of firms, what we saw was that they got into this because they heard about it. They knew they needed to have a service line, but it wasn't very profitable for them because they were just taking every client that came in the door, not having a streamlined process, not having anything repeatable, not having the automation, or maybe having too many licenses of different products that do the same thing without really stepping back to think about how to really deliver that business. So what I've seen is the pain came together and said, now's the time for us to step back and do this right. Because there are the early adopters that did this practice that, have had the years to keep developing. There's the awareness of people that have done it. But what you can't do is think like just snap your fingers, you've got a profitable practice. That you actually have to think like an entrepreneur and step back and really think about what you want to do and how you want to deliver. So the first thing that I've seen really is people really honing in on their niche and on their purpose, and really truly understanding who is it that they want to attract into this practice, because we've gotten in trouble by attracting the wrong clients or just taking any client. And so as the firms have evolved in this, that has really been the biggest shift that I've seen, is more people understanding that they need to do this rather than pushing that aside. Because once we know who the clients are we want to attract, it actually puts everything else in place and makes everything clearer, including the technology that we use.
Yeah, I do think it's been through trial and error. Firms over the last, I've worked with firms over the last 15 years. And when I would talk to a firm, I can hear right away, you are new to this journey, or you are 3 years down, or you're 5 years down. And I can tell by, a couple of things. And one of the biggest driver is leadership support. And so the leader is invested in building out a new revenue source. That's the number one thing, right? And then the other place I've seen them invest is they're finally investing in the CAS leader. And so no longer am I seeing a tax partner half doing CAS or an audit partner half doing CAS. Now they're investing in talent, and they're saying this is a new revenue source. We know this is not just write up. And so we're putting leaders in charge. And that's certainly something I've been hearing over the last couple of years. Who do you know, Janine? Who do you know that I can recruit? Who do you know that I can hire? Who do you know that's done this already that I can bring to my firm, and I'm ready to invest in this type of talent, and as well as not just hiring bookkeepers, hiring controllers, hiring CFOs, hiring data analysts, thinking about where sales and use tax fits in these new services in a way that's profitable. And so that's where I'm seeing them invest as well, is, through trial and error of kind of doing it the wrong way without a leader. They're investing now in building out the talent and building out the product that firms are now selling in this space. It's no longer, a tax partner saying, hey, can you clean up the books? Hey, can you do it for free? Hey, can you, you're going to do this monthly work at $200 a month. That's not the investment. It's new talent, new pricing, and really having a doubling down on building out this new revenue source for the firm.
Yeah. And it's also investing in the staff you have today, right? As you're standardizing your CAS practice, adding technology, efficiency, you want to invest in your current staff and give them a career path to provide consultative advisory, which is really where the service providers are adding value to their clients.
Well, I would say protecting your staff too, because a lot of times, they're getting pulled in other directions, and really good CAS leaders are like, no, you can't have my talent right now because we're doing monthly work. We need to be on point every single month, helping advise our clients. You can't pull them into other things. So it's not only investing in your talent, but now the really good CAS leaders are protecting their people, and they're starting to say no. And to what Amy said, no to the wrong kind of work, no to the wrong kind of client.
Mm-hmm. So, Amy, you work with so many different CAS because you're kind of working and building the practice. When you think about the most successful firms that have CAS practices that are really thriving, what is it that they're doing?
Well, number one, going back to really understanding your niche is, that really drives everything to your client acceptance and who you are deciding is going to be part of your practice. So whether you are a sole practitioner or a small boutique firm or a bigger firm that has multiple departments, truly protecting the types of clients that you want to work with. Because if you don't, then that's when things start going off the rails, things become inconsistent. We're not using the technology that we have in place because that was built to work with those clients. And that really drives to the tech stack. And so these firms that are doing a really good job took the time to really understand their processes. So you're almost a consultant to your own business. And you go in and you document all the things that you are doing, where work is being duplicated, just like you were a client yourself, so that you can identify, oh my goodness, we have three different tools we're using for this. And in this process, we're duplicating, where we're doing some things in a manual way and some things in an automated way. And we might be doing the same thing twice when that work gets passed off. And so really doing that consultative work on yourself to truly understand what are the things that are going to save you the most time. So using sales tax as an example, I think so many times it gets overlooked in CAS practices because it's one of those things that falls out of the work. And most people in CAS do not specialize as a SALT expert. And so if we haven't thought about how we're going to make sure that the work we're doing is accurate, and if we're taking on invoicing for a client or even reviewing it or doing their sales tax returns, how do we know that we're complying with all the different sales tax regulations that are out there for county, state, city, all of the things, right? So when I had my CAS practice, I automated that very fast because one of the things that is an advantage of being in the cloud is your geographic reach opens up. You can go anywhere. But if you don't really think about how you're going to support those issues and who you're going to call and how you're going to make sure it's accurate, you can get in trouble really fast too. So it's really stepping back, looking at all the little processes, as far as document exchanges and how you're going to get the data in from online banking and doing bill pay and payroll and all of those things, and going one by one and thinking about how much time do I want to save per client, or what is the protection that I need to have to make sure that I'm doing the right thing for the client and I don't get the client in trouble because I am part of their operations, and really putting that tech stack together. Which once you do that, you actually change how work moves through the firm, and you start breaking apart old job descriptions. And that's really what when you look at very successful CAS practices, they don't duplicate job descriptions from a tax compliance department and so forth. That these are roles that are specific to the client experience and how the work is going to move through the firm and who's good at what, and putting people in as a team approach so that you can be as efficient as possible and make sure you're automated and can spend the right amount of time with your client.
And I can add to that, and I know Amy's going to agree because she's actually the person who taught me this probably 10 years ago, is the successful CAS firms have a business plan. And that's kind of what you were just describing, Amy, right? Because everything starts with a plan. And what are your goals? Are you 1 million in revenue right now and want to get to 2, or 2 revenue and want to get to 5? What are your goals? And then you work backwards from the plan. It's looking at your team and looking at your technology, looking at your people and your process and your technology. And so having that business plan, and the others, I'll ask CAS leads, what's your revenue? I'm shocked how many say they don't know, because their revenue is actually lost in other books of business. It's lost in some tax, it's lost in some sales and use tax, it's lost. And so getting really clear and how can you not know? And hey, by the way, what's your growth been? Some can tell me. Typically right now in CAS, I'm hearing 25 to 35% growth for those successful leaders that have started down this path. And I'll ask them, does your tax and audit partners know that you have 25 to 35% growth? The number one answer I get, no. And then I ask them, well, how much growth has your tax partner had? 5%. I'm like, and you've had 25%, but no one knows? How can you not know? And so I think all of that goes back to really having a business plan, knowing where you are now, knowing where you're looking to go, working on the business, outlining how you're going to get there, which Amy just described, as well as letting everybody else at the firm know. So that internal education of we are the number one fastest revenue growing source. And you need to dedicate revenue to help us keep up with this path. And you have to also dedicate teams. I need to be able to hire people into what Amy just said, new roles that we've never had before, right? Because we need different talent for this team. And so my answer is putting a plan together, having that business plan and sharing it with everybody.
Deneen, it sounds like you're saying the CAS practices need their own CAS advisor.
Well, and that's Amy and I, there's a network that's been created with lots of CAS leads, and they all start talking to each other about what's working and what's not working and what they've tried. And, oh, I tried it that way, but it didn't work for me. Oh, great. What did you do differently and why? And so, yes, that network has really started. But I think what they struggle with is while they're all talking to each other, they're not talking enough to the partners. They're not talking enough. I mean, it's different for larger firms and smaller firms. Smaller firms we see move quicker because they don't have all the internal politics kind of handicapping them, right? Larger firms, it's that internal education. They have to get really good at, and I think, Amy talked about this, they've had a lot of failures. And so it's not a quick hit, right? And so internally educating on what, where they're at, where they're going, what they need, it's a constant team approach that they have to be their own advocate internally at their firm. If it's a larger firm, if it's a smaller firm, to just start doing it. Start building out this new way of working with your current clients.
There's a question that I want us to address, from the audience about what is a wrong client versus a right client. What are your thoughts on that, Deneen or Amy?
I think Amy, you talked about that. Why don't you take that?
Yeah. So this is a good question that I'm going to pose back to you. So this is the work we have to do, is actually stepping back and understanding what are the client traits we'd like to work with. And that is going to be different for everyone. And that is truly what makes this practice unique and exciting, is that you can design a practice around the clients you like to work with. So some things that you want to look at are personality traits of people that you work with. If they are not good to work with, that means they're not good for your staff to work with. No one's enjoying working with them. They're not necessarily the right fit for your client or for your practice, but they may be for somebody else. Mm-hmm. You also want to look at what are those industries that you want to attract. And so a lot of times in the work that I do with firms is we really drill into that, because sometimes we think, oh, I might go after a certain industry, but they don't have a lot of money. Well, it depends what you're going to package in to delivering services to them, which is more than just the compliance work and the monthly work. That's the stuff that is table stakes, right? It's because you're specializing in a certain niche, your value becomes so much more. You're coaching them, you're helping them understand the industry they're in, what are the best practices, the KPIs, all of those things that are important for that business to be successful. So I call this becoming a cherished advisor, because what happens is that you are someone that they can't imagine not having as part of their business. And the only way you earn that is by being truly involved with their business. So you really have to think through, I don't want to just be there for every type of client that walks in the door. There's a certain revenue number that, is my minimum of what I'm going to serve. I'm going to have, probably 3 different pricing packages that I offer people. It's going to be things beyond the transactional work. And it's also going to include that work of that interaction and understanding their business. And so many times what I hear when firms first come to me is, my clients don't talk to me and I hate when they don't value my opinion. Well, right there, that's your first thing. I'm not going to accept a client in the sales process or their prospect stage that I can already tell we don't have a good back and forth. And I'm also giving them the expectation of, this is what it's going to look like when we work together. And we are going to meet together at least once a month for an hour to go over your numbers, to make sure you're meeting budget, to make sure you're hitting certain key performance indicators in your business, so that they know that you understand their business. And then they're waiting to meet with you. It's not pulling teeth for them to meet with you. When they we have to remember that in most small businesses' eyes, the way they view their accountant is the way they've always viewed their accountant. And it's information that they don't understand. And so no one likes to be in a conversation that they don't understand or they don't feel smart. But when we're actually coaching them and educating them and helping them get smarter about their business, then it's like, give me more, give me more. And that's when your services keep growing. So it is work to step back and truly understand who are those clients that you want to work with, and then be disciplined to not take clients that you don't want to work with. And sometimes that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sona.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, to add to that, I think typically when you're building out your CAS practice, you take any clients. And you typically, I don't see firms pricing successfully, right? And don't price for their value. And so then as they're building it, also you have partners sending you wrong clients that they're forcing you to say, yes, I'll do the wrong work, meaning just write up, clean up right after the fact, starting to say no. But as I see firms further along in this journey, they're revisiting how they've priced clients. They're revisiting what, to Amy said, what a good, client is. Right now, a lot of firms are going through this exercise because they're at capacity and staff has quit. So they've lost top talent. They can't take on new businesses. And so they are looking at their current clients. And I believe it's the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule really fits here, where, 80% of your revenue is coming from 20% of your clients. But where are you spending your time? You're spending 80% of your time with the non-profitable clients. So revenue does not equal profitability. And so having a look at that 20% that is your top clients, sell them more, talk to them more, do more with them, and let go of some of the ones that are time sucks and not really bringing in not just revenue, but profitability. And a lot of firms are going through this exercise right now, especially, because they're at capacity, especially because they're concerned about another really painful tax season.
Yeah. And I think the market dynamics are such that with lack of resources, abundance of opportunities, where firms are able to be selective about who is the ideal client for them. So with that, should we, Gail, go to our second polling question? You're muted, Gail.
Thank you. My dog was barking, so I had to go on mute. Polling question number 2. What is the biggest pain point to having a successful CAS practice? And your options are: traditional partners don't want to change, we don't have the right staff, we can't find the right clients, we don't have the right technology in place, or all of the above, or not applicable. So choose whichever one of these is most appropriate to your situation, and then click submit. And we'll show those answers in a few seconds.
Once we share the results of that, let's dive into and talk about a different area, which is, what is the biggest struggles we see firms have when it comes to starting or growing their CAS practice. And let's dive into that after we see the polling results.
I think we're ready to go ahead and post those results. I love this. The majority are saying all of the above is the biggest pain point.
Okay, Amy, what are your thoughts on that topic?
Absolutely, staffing is the biggest pain point right now, and part of that is we can fix it with things like Avalara and BotKeeper and other automation tools that help us to take some of that heavy lifting of the transactional work away. So that is something that's really important to look into. When we talk about client profiling and client acceptance, that's another thing, because we can actually work with less clients to make more money if we do all of the right things as far as that and our pricing and packaging, and we've automated the right processes so that we can make sure we have enough time to work with our clients. And so I think, we as a profession have always been very checklist driven, and that's how we've been taught to do our work. And in this line of business, this is entrepreneurial. I don't care if you're in an accounting firm. I don't care if you're starting a boutique practice or have a boutique practice. It is entrepreneurial. There isn't a checklist. There are best practices of things that you can do in your business. But it is a struggle, if that has not been a skill that you innately have or have learned before, of really opening yourself up to that. So investing the time to learn how to go about putting a business together or service line together, rather than just trying to duplicate what you've had before, I think is one of the biggest struggles, because we just have to get through that mindset that it's possible and put ourselves out there, in a way that's different than we ever have put ourselves out there before. And what Deneen was talking about, if you're in an accounting firm and need to do that internal communication, that can be hard. That's marketing. That's sales. You don't think about that, but you are in your own accounting firm selling your service, because if you're in an accounting firm, really the gold's there. You don't have to go much further outside the firm to get new clients for this practice and to bring more value to the accounting firm. But it is really important. I would say the other struggle is truly predicting how long it's going to take to do the things that you need to do and the investments that need to be made, and not skimp on that or try to skip over it. We have to work through it in order for it to happen. And when we are communicating, whether that's internally to other partners or within our teams, being really transparent of where we stand in our plan, what we have to do next before we can get to X, before we can get to 10 new clients, before we hit a certain revenue goal, and being realistic about what our contribution is, not looking at old ways of thinking of utilization and realization, but truly understanding what are the metrics that's going to show that we are successful as a practice.
Well, and I think that's the number one, struggle that firms have in CAS, in building CAS, is you cannot build and run your CAS practice the way you have built and run your audit or tax practice. And so that's hard because most firms are used to running a practice a certain way. And Amy said it, it's like you are running a profitable business. You know, this all about running this new revenue source and building out a profitable business. And that's where she's saying the best leaders are entrepreneurial, and they're fighting for the change. And I see a question here that I'm going to answer for Christina around how do you explain to that traditional partner of a mid-sized firm that what we're building in CAS is not bookkeeping? And because, you know, the bookkeeping is always, I love what she's saying, been poo-pooed because it's been non-profitable. The way before the cloud, that work was not profitable. It was painful. It was time consuming. It was manual. And the tax partners were like, oh, do this work for me, get it all cleaned up and do it for me. And they're giving your services away. They're telling you to do it, you know, for free. The best way is to say no. No, I do not do cleanup work. You need someone on your tax team to do that. That's not my CAS team. No, I won't take on that client for $200 a month. That's not what I do. I don't do that work. I do real-time monthly advisory work. So the best way is to say no. Now, I know that's not a popular answer. I know your tax traditional partner will not like that. But when they see you saying yes to the right type of work and they see the revenue that you're bringing in month after month after month after month, 12 months out of the year, it gets easier to say no to the partner for that cleanup work. And that's the other thing that I've seen really successful firms do is separate CAS from tax. Separate it. It's separate. Your people, when I say you have to protect your CAS people, because they are doing work month after month, day after day, you know, it's 9 to 5, you have to be on point. Your clients are calling you. You've trained them to call you. They're calling you for your business advice. They're calling you for your advice and for your help. You cannot, during tax season, have those people that are on point 9 to 5, day after day, leave their day job to go do tax work because then the profitable stuff that's coming in every single month. And when I say profitable, firms that are building this out are charging on range $2,000 a month to $8,000 a month for their CAS services. Some are charging $20,000 a month, $30,000 a month. You can't have that revenue pause to do a $200 tax return, a $300 tax return. You can't. So so separate the teams is if you don't, then that's another hindrance, right, in building out this revenue source.
And Sona, I'm going to add to this, you know, because this is definitely a struggle for so many bigger firms of trying to build this out. And so taking what Deneen said as like the baby steps to get to the no is that to really separate out that work and make sure you're monitoring the profitability of that work compared to your other work. And so that way you have real discussion items with that partner to say, look at the profitability of this work versus the work that we're doing that would be true CAS. And this is educational, right? Like going back, you know, to what Deneen said earlier is we need to educate them on what that means, right? Like of what CAS truly means, because people don't understand. So when we can show that profitability difference, it's a big deal. Then also thinking about where can you put that work? Because we need to offer a solution. So that solution might be offshoring. BotKeeper has options for that, you know, through their team, but it might also be that you create a network, I call them farm teams, of boutique firms that you can have good relationships with where they can refer your firm good work that you guys want, and you're able to give them that type of work that they want. And you've got a trusted relationship amongst those firms to make sure that the quality of work is going to be good. So that way, eventually, you can move that team, either acquire that boutique firm and put them somewhere in your firm, or if you're going to do it yourself as on a separate team, that you can move that into the tax department once you've got that sound and that model there that work's been done to make it more efficient for them. So there can be steps that you take along the way to help convince them.
That's right. And in talking to a lot of accounting firms and CAS practices, they are separating them, and those are the ones that are more successful. They provide, for example, sales tax compliance in 2 different areas in their organization, and it's okay to do that. Yeah. I think the CAS practice serves a different purpose than the traditional multi-state practice, and it's okay to have them different, and to both of your points, to measure the success differently. Mm-hmm. And what they're finding is that the CAS practices are growing a lot faster. Mm-hmm. And so now, to your point, Deneen, identifying, measuring your growth and effectively communicating it to leadership is really critical, because, the CAS practices are a growth enabler for the firms.
It's also new customers. Like, there's a supply and demand issue happening. Clients are calling firms saying, can you help me with my bill pay? Can you help me with my payroll? Can you help me with my sales and use tax? Can you help me? I want to outsource to you. I don't want to do it. Can you help me? And so that demand is there. Well, traditionally firms have said, no, I don't want to do your sales and use tax. I don't want to do your bill pay. I don't want to do your payroll. Call, Paychex or ADP. No. And so why not say yes? Meet the demand. Listen to what clients are asking for. Build this out. Yes, I can help you with your sales and use tax. Yes, I can help you with your outsourced accounting. Yes, I can help you, because guess what it leads to? Tax. It's a feeder. Mm-hmm. And guess what else if you say yes to the sales and use tax compliance? Because it is painful. All the rules have changed. Clients are getting hammered. Who else do they go to get help? They call their firm. Can you help me with this? Instead of saying, no, I'll do a Nexus study, say yes. I have technology in Avalara that will let me do this work for you. I can help you. Yes, I will do the work. And then it leads to Nexus studies to your tax team. And so getting the clients in, meet the client demand, leads to all these other cells that you can do within the firm, other areas of the firm. Because clients aren't really calling saying, can you help me with my taxes? They're calling saying, I've got pain in my business. And so my whole thing is, through the use of technology, you can automate a lot of these painful things now in a way that you can say yes. And then you can start bundling in the services. Because I'll say, if you aren't saying yes to your clients that are asking for this kind of help, someone else is talking to them. Your competitor is talking to them. Your competitor is going to do their CAS work, their advisory work, and then you're going to lose the tax. Because your competitor is going to be doing the monthly client advisory work, the CAS work, and then it's very easy for them to do a tax return because it's all clean data. It's all clean.
Yeah. And you're right. Saying no is no longer an option because someone else will deliver. And also, traditionally, sales and use tax purposes, a lot of firms would just refer. They would refer to another firm. They would refer to Avalara to do. But when you think about CAS, it's all about outsourced services. Your clients don't want a referral relationship. They want you as a trusted advisor to provide an end-to-end service. Yeah. And so that's why I agree you need to vet out, make sure they're the right fit for you, but you can't say no to your clients. And it's also, CAS practices are looking to grow. If you have an established CAS practice, you can add sales and use tax leveraging technology and leverage third parties like Avalara to enable you. And you can now go back and sell sales and use tax compliance services, not only to your new clients, but your existing base of book of clients as well, and accelerating the growth even further.
Well, that's the trend that
she had a follow-up from the last polling question.
Oh. How do you define a bigger firm? Was that the question? No?
No.
I think Gail
had popped in.
Right. I just wanted, one thing I noticed, the last polling question, a third of the people said all of the above to what's your biggest pain point? Partners don't want to change. We don't have the right staff. We can't find the right clients. We don't have the right technology. That's pretty overwhelming. I think if someone is in that situation, which apparently a third of our viewers are, I think this has to go back to what I believe it was Amy was saying earlier on, that you need a business plan. And this shouldn't be so overwhelming that you walk away from doing a CAS practice or that you don't do it right. But all of these things need to be addressed individually, and they can be addressed individually. But if you're looking at all these things as one big pile of stuff that I'm overwhelmed by and don't know how to deal with, I don't think you're going to get out of the gate. So my recommendation would be to not walk away, but certainly take these one at a time, because it's too much to try and solve all those problems at once.
Yeah. And the whole thing about a business plan with this is that you get it all on paper, but you are targeting what you're going to work on each month. And so that you don't get overwhelmed, like Gail is saying, is, that you are aware of everything that needs to get done, but in January, this is what we're going to focus on, just this. And as we complete those things every month, then we're getting a little bit closer to where we want to be. And really with a practice like this, you never stop learning. So, once you start getting into it, you're like, oh, I can make this a little better, or this a little better. Our clients are asking us for this. Is that a service that we want to offer? And then that would go in your plan the following year. But it's really looking at what you're going to focus on first. There's a firing order to it. And then what you're not going to do as well. So trying not to overwhelm yourself with too many things right away is really important. And I saw another question, because we've said a few times, what is a bigger firm? And I think what we're really referencing is a traditional firm that has multiple service lines. So tax, audit, it's a full service firm, may not have audit, maybe it's just tax, but you've got multiple departments versus being a boutique firm where you're just focusing on CAS. Like that is your mission. That's all you do. If there's tax work, you're sending it somewhere else. So when you get into a firm situation where there's multiple partners, and that means two or more,
right,
you have to start justifying how you are going to run this practice, what kind of revenue you're going to bring in, what is the profitability of that, the resources that you're going to invest in, whether that be technology or staff. And there's somebody else that could thwart that decision or send you clients you don't want to be working with, or things like that. So that's, instead of saying bigger, I think what we're talking about is a full service firm with multiple partners versus a boutique firm that is solely focused on CAS. So hopefully that will help that.
So with that, Gail, should we move to our next polling question?
Sure. So this is our third polling question. Does your CAS team offer sales and use tax services? And your answers are yes, we offer sales tax compliance now. No, but we plan to add it. No, and we currently have no plans to support sales tax compliance, or I don't know. So please choose the answer that's most close to what your firm's situation is, and then click submit.
There's a question that came through. Is there general instructions or suggestions for pricing and packaging for different geographical areas?
So should we wait for the polling question? Because do you want to wait, or do you want me to?
Let's see. I'd say we can post the answers in about 10 seconds.
Okay. So, the geographical one, I'm not, I don't think about as much as the bundling and the 3-tiered pricing. And there's a firm that I worked with a while ago that had a really great marketing slick that I loved, resonated with me. Because when they talked about the services that their CAS department delivered, they had like bike, drive, and fly. So when businesses aren't calling you saying, can you help me with CAS? That's the term we use. Businesses are still calling saying, can you help me? Can you help me with the transactional work? Can you help me with the bookkeeping? Can you help me? I don't understand my business. I don't really fantastic cash flow. There's things I need. Can you help me? This, with bookkeeping is what they ask for, but it's not always what they need. And so they would show them this one pager and say, yes, what you're asking for is us to bike with you. And this is what biking entails, and having it bundled. And this is what we do. We might do your transactional work. We might do a little bit of payroll. We might do just financials, like a little bit. But we want you to know that our goal is to drive your business forward. So we can clean up your books. We can get it, monthly on our people, our process, our technology. We can get you, I know your data, you don't have to make meaning of your data. We can get that all cleaned up for you. But once we've done biking with you, our goal is to drive your business forward. So here's a list of what driving looks like. And it's a different price point. So here's what this price point is. And we're going to do more for you, some more analytics, so we're going to do a lot more. But know that when you're ready to fly your business forward, we are here to fly with you. And we want to fly your business forward. And so what flying looks like is we can offer CFO services. We can track KPIs. We can do budgeting and forecasting and planning. That's as CFO services. And so the client is calling, asking for one thing, but they're painting the picture of all that a firm can do. And they're saying there's different prices for each. And most firms are like, most clients are like, oh my God, you can do all that? Well, I don't want to bike with you. Let's drive, baby. Let's drive. Or some might be, oh, let's fly. And great, that's going to cost in a range of $8,000 to fly with you. Let's fly. And so you're kind of showing them the trajectory of all the services that you can provide and knowing that there's different price points. That's an example, I think, of how you can discuss this and package it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. To add on to what Deneen is saying, I would take it out of geographic because once you're on the cloud, you can reach anywhere. So this isn't your 5-mile radius anymore. But the change is that there's a niche, there's an industry, and that's what you're looking at as far as pricing and what is acceptable in that industry, what that industry can handle, how you're going to set up your processes, your technology, your automation, so that you can have profitability in that industry, because some industries, they might be more cash poor than others. So, that's a decision you're taking on when you go into those industries, but that spans anywhere. It isn't necessarily a geography, but it's very specific, so if you're dealing with restaurants, your packaging is very specific to restaurants, what restaurants need. So when they're looking at those packages, they're like, oh, I could really use that. Like they didn't think of that before, that there's someone that's a financial expert that can help them with so many specific things in their industry. And then you've already built rapport with them because they're like, oh, you get me. Like this is the stuff I need. So really kind of changing that mindset around industry versus geography.
So Gail, let's go back to the polling results.
Sure. So our results for that last question were 46% are saying they currently offer sales tax compliance now. 20% are planning to add it. 24% have no plans to add it. And 10% aren't quite sure what they're doing with sales tax at their firm. I'm guessing that means they have an effort, but not an organized effort.
Yeah, great. So, we referenced tech stack a few times. And, I wanted to get your perspective, Deneen, on what is tech stack? How do you see firms identifying technology for their tech stack, and how do they automate and scale?
Yeah. Well, when I think of building out the CAS practice, I always think of people, process, and technology. And you need to be building out all three at the same time. So I've seen firms bring technology in, but not change their people and not change their process. So I need to kind of position it that way, is you need to be working on, if you're bringing in technology, of how it's going to change your people or the people that you need and have their day-to-day, putting new process in place, and then you'll really be taking full advantage of all that the technology can do. But in this CAS space, obviously, probably from the last 53 minutes, you all will know that I will say you got to get it in the cloud. So that's where you start, is with a cloud-based general ledger. If it's QBO, if it's Xero, if it's Intact, if it's NetSuite, get it into the cloud and be in charge of converting your clients to the cloud, because they are paying other people to build a tech stack for them. Why shouldn't you be doing that and talking about your services along the way? So get it in the cloud, cloud-based GL. Now that you have a cloud-based GL, they have what they call is open APIs, which means other cloud-based technology can plug in. And so thinking about, QBO, bank feeds. who doesn't want bank feeds? That was the best thing that was ever invented. How many years ago, Amy, right? I mean, was it brought to the 7 years ago? So now you've got all this automation. What was it?
Before that, for sure. Yeah. 20 years ago, I had it in desktop. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the best thing that was ever invented. So now you're automating these things and you're plugging in other cloud-based technologies, really so that you can own that transactional work. I truly believe firms need to be controlling the client's transactional work. You need to be able to know what the client data is month after month. You cannot move into advisory if you're not sure the data is not accurate. And so you've got to start integrating, and that's where BotKeeper fits, right? BotKeeper in the cloud GL is the base. That's the foundation, so that we help code all of those transactions. All of that work is manual and time consuming. So bring in an automation like BotKeeper that works with your cloud GL. Now you start building in the newer revenue sources. I want to do bill pay. I want to do payroll. I want to do sales and use tax. And you start building in these other tech stacks, offering new services, charging more. Go back to your current client base. I see that you're paying a lot of bills, and I see you're doing it manually. Do you know that we can help you with that? That's a service that we provide. Exactly. I see that you're moved into all this needs around sales and use tax. Do you know that we can help you with that? And we can automate that with our tech stack in Avalara, right? I see that you have a lot of employees and you're doing payroll manually. Do you know that we can help with that? And so you're offering more and more and more, but you're automating it with technology. So typically in this space, people grew by hiring more people. You have more clients, you hire more people. Now you can automate a lot of this, and it all integrates and seamlessly syncs in together.
Yeah. So great answer. Gail, I know we have one more polling question before we wrap up. I want to make sure the audience gets their CPE credit.
So yeah, we'll just throw this question out, and then while you're answering it, we can continue our discussion. So the fourth CPE question is, do you want more information from our vendors? And check all the options that apply, and that would be Avalara, BotKeeper, the B3 Method Institute, all of the above, or no thank you. All right, and while our audience is answering that, you guys can continue your conversation.
So we only have 3 minutes left. I don't, Amy, do you want to talk a little bit about the Institute at this point?
Sure. So first off, just want to make sure everyone gets your contact information so we can go back to that slide. But, so for those of you that were intrigued about the sales tax help, this is the information to make sure that you can contact Avalara and really get a demo from them and truly understand what they do and how they can help a CAS practice. Just to end today, we talked about a roadmap and a plan. That is something that my company helps you do, helps you think through the tech stack and so forth. So we have a 6-week online course that helps you put a business plan together for this practice. Every week, we talk about new things, new topics. So each week is assigned all of these things we've talked about, but not all at once. And you take e-learning modules, and then we have a coaching session every week where we go over that. We also have something called the Best in Class Tech Stack, where BotKeeper and Avalara are part of that, where they all come to demonstrate what it's like to automate a lot of these processes and what that looks like, putting a tech stack together. At the end of the 6 weeks, you will present your business plan to your peers, get feedback, as well as from myself. And then you've got a 12-month plan that you can communicate to others. So our next course starts October 28th. And the code for that is Avalara 200. You'll get $200 off because you attended this webinar if you go to that link and join us. So we've got a great group that's going to be starting October 28th. So definitely join us then. And I'll let Sona conclude.
Yes. Amazing. I don't know, Gail, if you want to flash the results while we wrap things up. Thank you, Amy. And I will say it's an excellent program, and you can get a lot of benefit out of it. I want to thank everyone for attending this session today. We're at the top of the hour. Amy, Deneen, Gail, thank you so much for your partnership. If you have any questions, you know where to find each of us. Thank you and have a great week.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone. I want to take a moment to thank everyone for attending, to thank Avalara for sponsoring this webinar. Remind you that you will receive your CPE in your email. We are about to post a survey that we would like you to take a moment to answer so that we can continue to improve our webinar series. And if you had additional people attending the webinar with you at your computer, please send me their name and email address, or if you have any questions about CPE, you can contact me directly at gperry, GPERRY, at cpapracticeadvisor.com. Thank you, everybody.